Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, my name's Rich McDonald, and I played David Mason in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Everything Geek podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Leif Gaffert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have Neil Sandilands. He stars as Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker in The Flash, and is also best known for playing Titus in The 100 and Paco in Hap and Leonard. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. You gotta help me again with the pronunciation of your name. How would I pronounce that?
Ruari.
Ruari, but I see the spelling is kind of peculiar. Is that Gaelic?
Yes, it is actually. It's like the Irish version has two I's actually, so it's like an English version of an Irish name. It's very complicated.
Rory, and from which town, if I may ask, are you broadcasting from?
Dublin, Republic of Ireland.
Haha, I've been there before. I played rugby there, and in Cashel, I went up there, played some rugby there, and in Cork, and in Kinsale. I love Ireland. I love the Irish. I'm a huge Luke Kelly fan. I can probably sing the old triangle if you pay me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, lovely to be part of your podcast, man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. So getting right into my questions for you, Neil, can you tell me how you got into acting originally?
Oh my word! Now you're going like way back. I guess the quick answer to that is, I think I started acting as a defense mechanism as a young boy. I realized very quickly that I could manipulate certain outcomes if I behaved or acted or reacted then in a certain kind of way, you know. But it's not something that I ever studied, or I didn't go to like a drama school. I've just sort of always been kind of in that environment, you know, from a very early age. I think my first performance ever was in kindergarten at the Tom Thumb creche, and I played the sock without a mate. And I think I stole the show.
That's really interesting.
But my first, I beg your pardon. I think my first professional production goes as far back as 1989. It was a series called The Schoolmaster, and it was in Afrikaans, which is my native tongue. So yeah, I've been doing it for about 28 years now.
Very impressive. And I have to say, when you were describing the first part of your answer there, when you were describing how you were able to manipulate certain events, I was just like, wow, he's the thinker in real life too.
Touche. Yes. I studied my whole life to play this part.
Yeah, definitely. Can you tell me how you were originally cast as the Thinker?
I've been to that casting office before. I think I read for, is it Abracadabra?
Yeah, that's correct.
Out of previous season. So I just got a call coming through. I just declined that. And this time around, it was quite a quite an interesting scenario. I went in, I did the read, and Todd Helbing was there, and he's obviously now the showrunner, the big producer on it, and he just went, "Wow, that was incredible." And I took I think it was a calculated risk, but I didn't feel too good about my audition, and Todd was trying to urge me to say, "Dude, it's in the bag. You nailed it." And I went like, "No, I think I can do it better." And I often wonder about that, because they did give me a second take, and I believe I did do it better. But if I did not do it better, I wonder what kind of impression that would have made on them. Maybe they wouldn't have cast me. So on that particular day, it worked out in my favor. And what a delight to have been part of this number.
Yeah, definitely. Were you a fan of the TV show or DC Comics before your casting?
No, I wouldn't say that I wasn't a fan. I just don't think that I've had a lot of exposure to it. We didn't, coming from South Africa, we didn't even have televisions, or we didn't have a functioning channel before 1976, you know. So we arrived kind of late on the scene, and it's just a genre that I think my natural inclination wouldn't be to pick that up, and I just didn't grow up with it, you know. So when I started working on The Flash, I became aware of how integrated it is, and how many moving parts there are, and how many universes and Earths, and you know, it's a highly fascinating and exciting genre to be working in, because basically anything you can imagine, as far as you can allow yourself to think of different scenarios, you can actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. And just for the warning of the listeners, we will be discussing spoilers from recent episodes of The Flash, so this is your spoiler alert warning, just because don't want anyone getting angry at me. I don't have tough skin.
Yeah, if people want my bank account details and they want to make some payments, I'll let some things slip. Yeah, and never work for Warner Brothers again.
Yeah. So the latest episode of The Flash, Fury Rogue, showed a weakness in DeVoe that, even though obviously he can calculate many scenarios and plan them in his favor, kind of like you, just kidding,
Yeah.
he couldn't calculate for how Barry would feel following the death of Ralph. What did you think when you read the script for this episode and found out about this weakness?
Well, it was very interesting. Eric Wallace and myself had a long conversation about that, and it was great that we could. It's been a very collaborative experience. You know, I could go and have a talk with him and say, like, okay, explain this to me, or how about this, or how about that, and when I read it, it was something that I related to because I studied social sciences, and philosophy being one of my subjects. I actually wrote a thesis in my third year that had elements of the same, that questioned emotion, or the human being's ability to have emotion. And I think DeVoe, and certainly I too at that age when I was young and didn't know anything, regarded that as a weakness in our makeup as human beings. I mean, if you think about it, on the wrong side of things, you know, emotion has been responsible for wars. There's a lot of bad things that come out of low frequency emotion, and I think DeVoe is certainly irritated with that. I think he envisions a world where you can almost have a mathematical outcome and predict, and obviously he wants to be in charge of that, you know. But I won't go too far into what happens with him psychologically and how his mind works, but I do think he got irritated with that element that, you know, emotion, also on the strong or on the good side of things, is responsible for the triumph of the human spirit and all the goodness that we know in the world as well. I think misappropriated, it can be a very bad thing, and that irritates DeVoe. I think DeVoe has got a very sublime view of the world. In one of the episodes, I noticed there is actually a moment where we get to see, or hear at least, how he envisions the world. And I can say no more about that.
You've already said more than I thought you would, so yeah, that's a really good answer. So the episode also showed the relationship between DeVoe and his wife Marlize beginning to strain, which obviously is especially interesting after the recent revelation a few episodes ago that he has been drugging her and wiping her memory every time to keep her loyal. What can you tease about the two of them in the upcoming episodes?
Yeah, I don't think I can venture down there, but let me say this. Kim and I, we've known each other quite a long time, and we actually lived in South Africa, in Johannesburg, in a little suburb of Westdean. We lived in the same apartment complex. And I've always wanted to work with Kim. She's just astounding. You know? And many years later, I had the opportunity to work with her on The Flash. And she's such a trooper, super professional, super talented, beautiful. And I think she literally took Marlize DeVoe and made something very, very special out of it. And yeah, I can just say to the viewers that it's going to be hell of an interesting ride to the season finale. Watch this space. It's going to go through the roof.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like life coming full circle in a way, because obviously you knew her a long time ago and were in the same apartment complex, and now you get to work. You've been working with her on The Flash. It's really interesting how it worked like that.
Yes, definitely. There's another little anecdote that I'd share. Remember when I spoke about The Schoolmaster, the first television series that I ever did? That was 28 years ago. Now, the director of photography on that is a gentleman with the name of Alwyn Kumst. And 28 years later, I walk into Vancouver Film Studios, and who is the director of photography? Alwyn Kumst on The Flash. He does in this season, he did all the uneven episodes. So 1, 3, he did the even episodes. Sorry, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. And if you talk about full circle, my very first television production was with him, and 28 years later, in a different country, we get to work together again. And he's equally has become a master of his craft.
Well, that definitely is coming full circle. It's really interesting.
Yes.
Now I'll have to talk to him as well.
Yes, they just, it's such a great privilege to be working on a show like The Flash, because, you're just surrounded by all these really, really skillful people. I mean, from the stunt guys to the photography to the visual effects. It's great fun. It's great fun working on that production.
Yeah, it's great. What would you say has been the highlight of playing the Thinker for you?
Well, I do like the stunt sequences. I think when we initially meet the Thinker, he's in his chair, in the wheelchair, and that was a great challenge because you're kind of confined. I mean, you don't have movement. You have to play everything with voice and with your facial expression and your understanding of whatever the subtext is. But then later, when we see him in this new permutation, where he's kind of evolved into and he's stolen all the superpowers, I get to move, and that is great. And doing some of the stunt sequences, I cannot wait for people to see some of these stunt sequences. It's going to blow their minds. So I'm super excited about that, and I had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, we got a small taste of that in the most recent episode, especially when he uses Ralph Dibny's power, elongated man, where Barry tries to hit him with that trinket thing, and he just stretches backwards. That was visually really fun to see DeVoe doing that.
Oh, that is, but the tip of the iceberg. Wait. No, I'm super excited. I think these upcoming episodes are really, I think they took it to a next level. Some of the stunt the personnel that I worked with actually suggested that this is the most ambitious stunt sequences that they have attempted since the inception of Flash. So I think our audience are going to be in for a ride.
Yeah, now I'm very excited to see what those are.
I have to pinch myself. I so want to show you. I want to show you, but I will not do that.
Well, I'll see you in the coming weeks soon enough anyway. I'm a patient person. What do you think fans should be most looking forward to in the remaining episodes of this season?
Well, I'd like to tip my hat to the creators of this show, and specifically this season, because I know that they have literally plotted out this entire season. They had a very good indication of where they're going with it, and I think they executed it marvelously. The tie-up and the resolve is, it's just, I think it's so well and cleverly done. And I'm just waiting to see what the audience are going to do with it, and hopefully we entertain them. And in the words of George Friedrich Handel, I should be sorry, O Lord, if I had only succeeded in entertaining them. My wish was to make them better.
That's a really good quote.
Yeah, that you can put that into the mouth of the thinker.
Yeah,
and I think it's read true.
Yeah, I could actually picture him saying that, to be honest.
Yeah. The most challenging part of it was, but not really, was just doing the prosthetics job. And then perhaps also the way that they wrote the character. He talks in a very highbrow, sort of academic, scientific, intellectual kind of way. So his speech patterns and the words that he would use are, sometimes I had to literally sit with a dictionary and kind of go like, what is he actually saying? So that was challenging. And hopefully we pulled it off, well, as good as one hoped to,
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen any complaints about the way he speaks, so I think that says you're doing a good job.
You.
Which would you say has been the most challenging role in your career so far?
Well, I would certainly say the Thinker was an immense challenge, just because they so well, it's season 4, but you walk into a larger mechanism that's really well oiled, and it functions really well, and you can only hope to rise to the occasion, And it's a global platform. It's got a huge following. So you want to go in there and not disappoint, certainly, So I would say that playing and also it's such an iconic kind of part, It is. I hope that we in future get to see more of the Thinker, feature, or perhaps in some of the latter series. But you never know. You never know. Anything can happen. The prosthetics job on that was about 2 hours, and then half an hour to take it off. And we did 360-degree scans and laser scans. And I think the toughest thing for me was doing the live cast. That's when they literally, it's like a chemical formula, and they place that around your face. You know, it's like an upper body cast, and there's a chemical reaction, and it becomes hot, and then it sets, and then they can make a sculpture of your face so that they can do the applications for the prosthetics on that. And for about 20 minutes or so, you go into sensory deprivation because you cannot talk, your eyes are closed, your ears are plugged, you can only breathe through your nose. And it's the second time that I did a live cast. The first time, I was absolutely fine for the first 15 minutes or so. And then all of a sudden, I started experiencing like real anxiety, and I just wanted to get out of there. Thankfully, we managed to get a good cast out of that. This time round, because I had the memory of the previous time, as soon as everything went dark, I went like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to sit here for 20 minutes. And then, thankfully, I spoke to the guys, that fellow, Vincent Van Dyke, special effects in Burbank, where we did it. I spoke to them beforehand, and I said, just keep on talking. Tell me anything. Tell me about, your girlfriend. Tell me about what you had for breakfast. Anything. Just keep on talking. And the guys were fantastic. They did. And then I sort of settled into it, and I just concentrated on my breathing, and we got through the 20 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
But that was about the toughest part for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting, though. My final question for you, Neil, aside from the ongoing season of The Flash, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Well, I'm coming to you live from Bastrop, Texas. I'm in Texas now. And I literally finished The Flash. We wrapped the season just over a week ago. That was Saturday morning. It was a night shoot that we did with the director, David McWhirter. And the Sunday, I was on a plane to Austin, Texas, and Monday was my first day on this indie feature called Falcon Lake, in which I've got the great honor and privilege to play opposite Adriana Barraza. She, in fact, she got an Oscar nomination for her work in Babel, and I think Amores Perez. And then there's somebody else that CW fans would recognize is Camila Mendez, who's in Riverdale. And the director is Sarah Seligman. I'm working on that now, and I will be here for the next 3 weeks or so.
It's very exciting, and I have to say that Texas accent was really good.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can do. It seems to me that I can do the southern accents a little bit better than the sort of West Coast or the standard American.
Yeah, well, I think it was pretty good, so yeah, it was decent.
Look, the word, I think I could sound like an Irishman, a little bit like an Irishman. The word whiskey, which is Ishkabaha, comes from the Gaelic water of life. Now, there was a Dublin street ballad in the late last century by the builder's labourer by the name of Tim Finney, who fell from a ladder and broke his skull, and they had a wake for him. And at this wake, there was lots of Ishkabaha, water of life. Naturally, there was also lots of fighting, drinking, dancing, everything. Anyways, I'm going to sing the song for you, the Ballad of Finnegan. No, I'm not going to sing. But that's my... that was my attempt at Irish. How was that?
It was decent, yeah. I think the Texas one was slightly better, though.
I screwed it up, hey.
No, it was decent. I'm not sure I'd show it to any other Irish people, but...
Yeah, they might smack me.
As long as I don't tell them who it is, you should be fine.
Yeah, right. No, but I love the Irish. They are outside of South Africa. They are probably my favorite rugby team, and I love the Irish music. and I enjoyed your country very much when I traveled there. When Irish eyes are smiling.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That's all of my questions for you today, Neil. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Rory. Thank you for having me. And thank you to all the people who follows the show. And you can, if you are, I'm a very latecomer when it comes to social media and stuff like that. I kind of screwed that one up, but I do have a publicist now, and they urge me to promote all of that. So my tag is like the @ sign, at real, as in REAL, Sandilands. And I think you could just put that in, and you can find me on all the platforms. I try to be active there.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great evening over there in Ireland.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day too. I look forward to talking to you again soon, and take care. Bye.
Thank you very much, Ruari. Take care. Bye.
The Flash airs Tuesdays at 8/7 Central on the CW, and the next episode is titled Therefore She Is. Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/septusdestroyers. Check out Neil Sandilands' website, www.neilsandilands.com, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
It's really tight red leather, so comfortable isn't really the word I would use to describe it. But it is, I think it sort of molds to your body the more you wear it.
Right. Well, what's my motivation? And but it's very real, and it's I really had to spend some time with the character and with the source material to really try